Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we're going to be talking about Kindle Unlimited. I love Kindle Unlimited. It is a subscription service where you can basically like rent ebooks and then give them back and you pay a monthly fee. It's very great, very helpful. Absolutely love it. But they recently updated it so that instead of having a 10 book limit checked out at a time, you can have 20 now. And mine is currently entirely full. So I thought I would make a little KU TBR video. So these will be the 20 books that I have checked out on Kindle Unlimited. So the first book that I have checked out is Drawing the Doctor. This is the book that I am currently reading. It is by Romeo Alexander and it is a MM. And this one is a romance between a very chaotic artist. He is very social, very individual. He has lots of tattoos. He really is very artistic and creative, and this is his romance with a doctor who is very clean cut, very straight-laced, and it is a very opposites attract type romance. I am really liking it. The reason I started reading it is because it was recommended on a video that I was watching about books that had characters with pierced dicks, and this one, the girl that I was watching the video of explained a scenario in this book where the main character gets his tongue piercing stuck on a hookup's dick piercing, and they have to go to the hospital and that to get them separated, and the guy with the tongue piercing falls in love with the doctor, and that's why I had to start reading it. That's what drew me in. I'm really liking it so far. The second book that I have checked out on KU is Surrender by Amy Dawes. This is part of her Harris Brothers series. I have read all of the rest of the Harris Brothers series, and I've read all of the like spin-off Harris Brothers books, but I never continued and read Gareth's story. These are all sports romances that take place in England. They're all soccer, professional English football players, and I really liked the rest of the books, and I just never got to Gareth's book. So I have it checked out and I will eventually get to it, but I've had it checked out for a long time, but I will eventually get to it. The next one that I have checked out is Painted Lace by K.M. Newhold. This is another one similar to Drawing the Doctor, where it is a very chaotic person who is in an opposites attract type romance with a very straight-laced, clean-cut type person. He likes everything organized, and they fall in love and their lives are never the same. It is another one that was recommended to me on a video of MM romances, so this one also is MM. There are a lot of MM books on this list. The fourth book that I have checked out is Blade by Aidan Bates and Ali Leda. I don't know how to say the last name. This one is another MM book, and it is a motorcycle club romance, but it's a motorcycle club romance between the president of a motorcycle club and the son of his like worst enemy. And that just sounds great. So that's all I know about it, but it sounds great. So then number 5, we have Faded by Hawk Oakley. All I know from this one is that it is a paranormal fated mates shifter type romance. I think they're werewolves. I'm not positive, but I think they're werewolves. And it is also a shorter one. It is under 200 or within 100 to 200 pages. The sixth book that I have checked out from KU is The Casanova by T.L. Swan. This one I have checked out because it's available for Kindle Read and Listen, so I checked this one out because I want to listen to the audiobook. I loved the audiobooks of both The Stopover and The Takeover, which are the first 2 books in this series, and I liked I enjoyed The Stopover, and I absolutely adored The Takeover, one of my favorite books that I've read this year. It's amazing. So this is the third book in the series. It follows Elliot Miles. These are all billionaire, I guess they're billionaire romances. They are very powerful businessmen who fall in love with women. It's great. The seventh book that I have checked out is called The Marionettes by Wismer, and this one I have checked out because I love Wismer's YouTube channel. I've been watching it for years. She has a booktube channel called Kate's Book Date, and she is a freelance editor and an indie author, and I absolutely love her videos. I have such a good time just like having them on in the background and like getting myself organized while watching them. It's great. And she's put out a couple of books, and I've read one of her poetry collections that she has out. And then the other two books that she has out, I just wasn't interested in. They weren't like my forte. But this one that she recently released a couple of weeks ago is a adult paranormal vampire romance, and it is spicy and adult, and I think there's like a vampire academy situation involved, and it sounds really good. So I checked it out because I definitely want to give it a try and support her because I love her. I will link her YouTube channel below because she's fantastic and you should go check her out. Then number 8 that I have checked out is The Jock by Tal Bauer. I think that's how you say it, Tal Bauer. This one is a very, very popular sports romance that I have been wanting to read for ages since it came out, because every time that somebody asks for an sports romance, this is the one that they recommend. And it doesn't have an audiobook, so I haven't been able to read it for ages. And this is one of the ones that's a little bit longer on this list. It's a full-length 350, 400 page novel, and it is one of the ones that I am hoping to be able to read over multiple days and like draw out so that I can actually experience this story, because people adore this one and I just can't put it off. I can't wait anymore. I need it. Then the next book that I have checked out is Fire and Ice by Andrew Gray. This is also is about a police officer and a childcare worker. Synopsis, it talks about how the Carter, I think is the hero, one of the hero's names. He is a police officer who gets called to a domestic disturbance call, and he has to remove a very small child from this situation. Child services is called, and the man who shows up to take the child from child services is his ex, something like that, and they don't get along. The cop and the child service worker, they previously dated, and Carter thought that Donald was super like icy, like he wasn't emotional, he wasn't like invested in the relation. He didn't put any, he was very closed off, and he put up very much of like a front and didn't want to let him in. So they broke up, and they don't really get along anymore. But Donald is a child services worker, so he takes the child and ends up, when he can't find anyone to take the child in the foster, ends up becoming the foster parent for this child, and he has to work very closely with Carter, who is the police officer involved in the case, and I think that they reconcile their differences and end up falling in love. So sounds really good. The next one that I have after that is Hook by Gina Maxwell. This one I saw on Samantha from Books with Samantha's Trope Week recommendation videos. I don't remember which video it was on, but I know that I saw it on there. And this one is an Peter Pan retelling. And that's the only thing I knew about it. And I downloaded it right after that video. Then number 11, we have Encore by Eden Finley. This is the final book in the, what is this series called? I don't know what the series is called, but the first one's called Popstar, then Spotlight and Fandom, and then Encore. This is the last book in the series. They're all celebrity romances. So they were all of the characters were used to be in a band called 11, and it was a boy band, and they broke up, and it's years later, and they're kind of trying to like get the band back together almost. One of the guys is getting a band back together, but each book follows a different band member, and this is the final one, and it follows the last one, and I think his name is Blake or Jordan. I think it's Blake, and then the love interest's name is Jordan. And Blake, after the band broke up, he became an actor, and he's a very successful actor. And he is now going to be in and he's straight, or always has said he's straight, and he's going to be in this gay romance movie. And it is his romance with his male co-star in the movie. And I am excited about it. I liked all the other books. I think my favorite one was probably the second one, but I would recommend reading them in order or sense. I don't think this one will make sense if you hadn't read the previous one, and I don't think the previous one would make sense if you haven't read the first one. So I would just read all of them if you want to read it. Then the next one that I have is Truth or Dare by Danielle Jensen, I think is her name. This one is another one that I saw on Samantha's Trope Week, but it's also one that I have been hearing about for a while now. I think I originally first heard it from Jess from Peace Love Books when she read it, and it sounds great, but I hadn't been able to read Danielle Jensen because she didn't have audiobooks, and now I can read this one because I can read now again. So I'm very excited. So this is one of the ones that I immediately downloaded when I started being able to read physically again. Then number 13, we have The Hunter and His Mates. This one came out today, the day that I'm filming this. I am so excited about this. It is by Kiki Clark, and it is the next book in the Kincaid Pack series. The first book in the series is called The Alpha and His King, and I absolutely 100% you need to read these in order. They will not make sense unless you read them in order. But these are paranormal shifter romances, fated mate style, and they are gay. So this one is the first one that it's going to be MMM, which I'm really excited about. I have read poly relationships before, but there was always a female in the trio, but this is my first ever MMM, and I'm very excited. Then we have Breakaway by Romeo Alexander, a hockey sports romance series between a hockey player and his tutor. I believe it's in college, so it's a new adult romance. But one of the main characters needs to stay on his hockey team, and he needs help because he, I think, is like failing one of his classes or not doing well in his classes, and he's going to be cut from the team. So he gets a tutor, and I am assuming that they fall in love. This is a trope storyline that I've read many times, and I always really enjoy it. So this is a short novella, and I want to read it. Then the next one I have is The Lie by Carla Sorensen. This one came out a couple days ago, came out yesterday, I don't remember. It came out recently, and I downloaded it on KU because I want to buy the audiobook, but I haven't bought the audiobook yet because audiobooks are expensive and I spent a lot of money. So I downloaded it on KU, but I probably will eventually buy the audio and read the audio version of this book because I've listened to all of Carla Sorensen's other books on audio. This one is also associated with the Washington Wolves football team. It is a follow-up, I guess, of The Bombshell Effect. So in The Bombshell Effect by Carla Sorensen, it is a player from the team who has a romance with the new female owner of the team. And when they get together and they eventually get married, the player on the team already had a daughter. So now, years and years later, that daughter has her own romance story with a player on a football team. And I'm so excited. So I think it's the same football team that her father used to play for, because obviously he doesn't play for it anymore. He's retired, because it's years later. She's an adult now. But I'm very, very excited. And I can't wait to see glimpses of her dad and her stepmom in it, because I loved their book from the Bombshell Effect. So I'm very excited about this one, and I will eventually buy the audio from it. Then the next one I have is Unhinged by Onley James. And this one is one that so many people have been reading and recommending lately. It is a male-male romance about a psychopath. So there is a guy who's like a billionaire, and he adopts a bunch of kids that have psychopathic tendencies, and he basically like nurtures their psychopathic tendencies and turns them into psychopaths and killers. And now they're grown up and they have romances. And so they are have been described to me as like kind-hearted or lovable psychopaths. So I'm excited. I have not seen a single person give it less than 5 stars. Then number 17 is Lessons in Corruption by Gianna Darling. I love Gianna Darling's Fallen Men series, but I have never read the first one. I started with Welcome to the Dark Side, and I did that even though I usually start with book 1 in a series, because the idea of a student and teacher romance weirded me out. But this was back when I hadn't read really any taboo books. Welcome to the Dark Side was my first ever like big age gap book. I was not a taboo book reader, was not a dark romance reader. I am now. So the idea of student and teacher does not weird me out anymore. So I definitely need to read Lessons in Corruption. I recently talked about it in my 6 books to read before the end of 2021 video, so I will link that above also. But I need to read it because I love the rest of the Fallen Men books, and I know I'm gonna love King. Number 18 is Head Games by Neve Wilder and Onley James. So this one is actually book 3 in a series, and like I said, I usually start with book 1 in a series, but this one just kind of sounded great to me. And it was a lot shorter than the other 2. So, because the first one in the series is like 400 pages and this one's like 150. So I, went with this one. I've read Neve Wilder before, and Onley James is the one who I just said wrote, and Unhinged. So this is a MM romance, and it's about a guy who is like he's a psychiatrist for psychopaths, and he's also a secret serial killer. Which just, what? And he's like an amazing psychiatrist, and he's really good at like talking to these like killers and psychopaths about everything and like counseling them to like try and like not kill people. But he's also a secret serial killer, and I was just like, that sounds amazing. And then his romances with, I believe, he's like not doing well as a serial killer. He's like not really sure how to be a serial killer, but he is a serial killer. So he's like trying to hone his craft, and he gets this guy who's like a mentor for killing, and they fall in love, and it just sounds great. So I needed to read it. Then number 19, I have Kingsized by Jessica Cain. I have never read a Jessica Cain, I don't think, and if I have, I've read one, and I don't remember. But so many people talk about her, and she writes steamy, short novellas that are just they sound really great. And I know that she has a whole series about bigger heroes, and this is the one that I downloaded because it sounds really good, and it is a bigger hero, and he's the bodyguard for a princess, and it's the romance between the bodyguard and the princess, and I love a good bodyguard romance, so I had to choose that one. And then now we're finally on the last one. Number 20 is Puppy Love by Evie Mitchell. I recently read a book by Evie Mitchell called Bad English, and I had some thoughts about it. If you want to hear my full thoughts, I will link my recent mid-month wrap-up. You can hear my thoughts about it there. But I want to read Evie Mitchell's books because she is going to have a book come out soon that has a girl in a wheelchair on the cover, and I think it's called Not My Type. I think it's called Not My Type, and I'll put a picture, but it's a girl with in a wheelchair on the cover, and I absolutely love that representation. So I've been reading some of her books just to like see how I like them. And I read Bad English, and now I've downloaded to read Puppy Love, and I don't know what this one is about. To be honest, the only reason I chose this book out of all of Evie Mitchell's books is because there was a dog on the cover. So, full transparency. That's why I chose this book. It had a dog on the cover. So, that's all I got. So I'm hoping it has something to do with the dog. It's called Puppy Love. If the dog's not featured, I'm gonna be a little disappointed. But Evie Mitchell writes very short, steamy, similar to Jessica Kane novellas. So I've been reading a couple of hers. So that's all of them. That's all 20 that we've gone through that I have checked out on KU. Let me know if you read any of them. Let me know what you have checked out on KU. But that's it. So please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. Stay here, stick around with us, be my friend. But that's it. So I will see you next time.